There we go. Okay, there we are. All right. So should you miss a class, one thing that you can do is you can go to our class notes. You can go to WebView. If you have OneNote downloaded, you can download it to OneNote. But here is Chem 11, and we are in the fundamentals, and it says 2, so that'll include the notes that I've done with period 2. Fundamentals 4, you guys are period 4, so that'll be stuff I've written with you. They should be approximately the same though, okay? So if you're like, what did we do today? We did naming acids. Actually, we did naming acids with my other block, so you can see, oh look, we wrote things in here, right? And we wrote things in here, right? So you can see I wrote all over it, and you can check those out if you want to, okay? Now, are you familiar with what this little bookshelf over here does? Any guesses? That one right there. It gets rid of all of that stuff. So if you're using it on your computer at home, you can just see this, and you can get rid of all the like index kind of stuff. Yes? So on, off, on, off. Okay. Did you guys all take a look at the course outline? Anyone not take a look at the course outline? Okay, I'm going to go over it real quick then. It's all good. You don't have to. Because I did want to explain a couple things. Because Chemistry 11 Enriched is not a kind and gentle course. Okay? Because it is not a kind and gentle course, it is a kick you in the teeth kind of course, because it's just got so much in it. You will find if you're taking physics, physics will probably be more difficult, but chemistry just has so many topics, okay? Like there's just such a volume of information. And some of it is quite challenging. So I'm going to skip to this page here. Oh, where'd it go? Here, let's make it bigger. Bigger. It won't go bigger. So let's download it. Oh my God. Okay, open file. There we go. I should have had this ready and printed out for you, but that's okay. Anyway, here we go. Oh, there we go. Okay. Chem 11 Enriched is a requirement to take Chem 12 AP. In fact, if the College Board that runs the AP program would allow us to use the name AP for this course, we would call this AP Chemistry Part 1. But they don't allow us to do that unless you are unless you've got students who are registering to take the exam and you're paying money for it, right? Otherwise, it's like huge trademark violation and they don't like it. So we just have to call it Chemistry 11 Enriched and explain to you that it is the first part of that course, okay? So you're welcome to university. This is a university level course. Okay, so if you're in grade 9, or if you were in grade 9 last year and you're now in grade 10 and you're like, what have I signed up for? Don't worry, I've had many, many, many grade 10s over the years take this course and be very successful, okay? So regular Chemistry 11, we do units and measurement, classification of matter, naming and formulas, and then after that we've done units 1, 2, and 3, and then we hit the mole. Actually, that's 4 units because I split the units and measurement and math in half for them. So then we hit the mole and reactions and stoichiometry. You have done all of units 1, 2, 3, and 4, or at least most of them over the summer. So we're going to just jump right in at the mole, okay? And after the mole comes reactions and then stoichiometry, atoms in the periodic table, bonding, solutions, and organic chemistry. Now, what we do is we start at the mole and we do extended topics in addition to the grade 11 stuff in moles and stoichiometry, reactions, atomic structure, periodicity, molecular geometry, intermolecular forces, gases, and thermochemistry. Thermochemistry is going to be your summer assignment between grade 11 and grade 12 should you choose to continue with Chemistry AP. I know, I'm sorry. Don't hate me. No, you can hate me. It's okay. I tell students all the time, this course is the hate me now, love me later course. Okay? Because when I went to university having got, I don't know, 96% or something in chemistry 11, or sorry, chemistry 12. And I wrote the scholarship exam. They used to have scholarship exams and I did well on that. And I'm like, chemistry is my friend. I love chemistry. Went to university chemistry and it was like, I had no idea what was happening any of the time. It was like it was totally foreign. It was like, what? A what? An orbital? A what? And I just didn't have any idea what was going on. And I was not the only person. I had friends who came from smaller schools and they were like the Governor General Award winner for their school, which meant they were the smartest person at their school. And they failed chemistry in their first semester. I passed, I got a B+, thank you very much. Okay, but I was so confused the whole time. So if you take this course, and even if you don't choose to take the AP Chem next year, you will be so much better prepared should you go on to study chemistry at university. Like you'll be like, oh, everyone else is confused and I'm learning it for the second time. And it was confusing the first time, but now it's like, yeah. And I've had students come back and say, best choice I ever made was to take those AP courses. Yes.
So is it like a preview for like uni courses?
So it is, you can treat it either way. Okay. So you can treat it as a preview for university. So we'll cover basically what's in there. They may have different highlights depending on which university you go to. Or you can choose to write the exam. And if you do well enough on it, you can get course credit, which means that you don't need to take first year chemistry. You can jump right into second year chemistry. Okay. Now, for most people, I recommend that they actually take first year chemistry because, number one, like I said, the first time through, you don't necessarily understand everything. You might be like, oh, what's happening? And it'll be really nice to review it all. And number two, you are going to be like adjusting to so many different things when you go to university. You know, perhaps you're living away from home, you're dealing with like all these different courses and different things. And it's like, what's happening? And it's kind of nice to have a course where you really know what you're doing. Do you know what I mean? I've also had people who have decided after having taken AP Chem, they're going into the arts, right? But they need a breadth course, right? And they're like, oh, I have the credit for AP Chemistry. I will use that. And then I don't need to take a science credit at university. So you can use it for all sorts of different things. Okay, so you can use it as a preview. You can do it for course credit. I think, is it McGill? McGill won't let you take it again if you get like a certain score. So if you're like, I want to go to McGill, but I want to take first year chemistry, then don't take the exam. Okay, but I think it's just McGill. Okay, so if you're going somewhere else, that doesn't matter. And you can ask me all about this next year, when you're in grade 12 and it matters more to you than it does right this moment. Okay, or if you're in grade 10 right now, you're like, oh, it's 2 years away, man. Yeah, don't worry about it right now. Just come and talk to me later. All right, so that's what is covered. And then if you're interested, you should have an email with this in it. Or did I send this as an email? I don't think I did. Did I? Oh, I did. Okay. Okay. So you can either look at it in the email or you can look at it on Teams. We have the regular Chem, the Chem 12 AP, and then Mark's breakdown, 10% quizzes, 15% labs and assignment, and 75% tests. Okay. And I'll be honest with you, I hardly ever get around to marking the labs and assignments. I collect them. Did I ever get a lab back to you guys last year? No, I didn't. So we'll see how I do this year. I have good intentions, but we'll see. Anyway, so it ends up mostly being quizzes and tests. And of course, there's the summer assignment, which is going to go in as 5%. Okay, but I haven't got that in here because it just kind of makes it confusing. And I don't know why I didn't put it in there. Anyway, whatever. Your tests will generally, not always, but generally be much more difficult than the regular course. Okay, so don't come into this exam and expect to get 95, 100%. There will be people who do it. I mean, some of you are geniuses, right? But not everybody is going to, because we're not all geniuses. Certainly, I would not have gotten 95, 100% on these kind of tests. But what happens is we get a lovely bell curve. Are you guys familiar with bell curves? This is kind of the distribution. This is like the highest mark, and this is the lowest mark. You generally get kind of a big blob in the middle, right, where most people are getting the marks in the middle. And what I do is I just take everybody's grade and I squash it upwards. So what I do is I add on percentages. So like the person at the top doesn't get very much added on. The person at the bottom gets a lot more added on. And the reason that I do this is because if you were taking regular chemistry 11, you would be like, oh, this is so easy. This is like a walk in the park. She holds our hand the whole way through. She spoon feeds us everything. Okay, that's what chemistry 11 is like, because we get everybody taking chemistry 11. Well, not everybody, but you know, you get people who just need it to get into nursing or whatever, but they really struggle with it, right? So we want to make it an achievable sort of thing for everyone. This is not achievable for everyone, okay? It just really isn't. Not unless you're doing it for a second time, right? Like when you go to university, you'll be like, oh yeah, it's easy, but whatever. Anyway, why do I do this? Because the AP exam is challenging. You need to get used to that level of question, okay? Number 2, Chem 11E is the first half of a university level course, and it should reflect university level difficulty. And thirdly, I want to be able to tell who is the top student, okay? And who is the second top student, and who's the third top student, right? Or whatever, because when I write reference letters, I can say this person is the top student in a very competitive field of like, you know, 39 students this year or whatever, right? And if I give you an easy test and you all get 100%, how do I know which one of you has the best understanding, right? The other thing is too, there's another reason in there as well, and that is building your emotional resilience. Right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Mack truck and I'm going to run you down, right? But then I'm going to like pick you up and like I'll use like the Star Trek like fix you up kind of thing, right? And then I'll be like, no, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. It's all going to be okay. Your grades will be scaled, okay? And everything will be good. Am I scaring you enough yet? Hopefully not. Okay. It's really not that bad, okay? Now, when you get to grade 12, there's no difference, all right? It's just too difficult to come up with 2 different assessments, so you just write exactly the same test as my regular grade 12 courses. Chem 12 and AP Chem map very well, okay? So like AP Chem is just like a little bit extra compared to Chem 12. Most of the extra stuff happens in grade 11. If you get a 5 on the exam, you can get course credit. If you get a 4 on the AP exam, sometimes you can get course credit. They've actually made the exam easier in the last couple of years. And they've also changed the percentages of students who get certain grades, like a 5 and a 4. So there's more 5s, 4s, and 3s now than there were before, and fewer 2s and 1s. Okay? So you guys benefit from being in the easier pathway, okay? But I'm still going to teach like it's the hard exam, because then you'll be like over-prepared, all right? And besides which, I don't know how else to teach it. I haven't done it yet, so okay. And that's it for that. Any questions? Yes?
Stress management.
Stress management, man, oh man. Okay, let's go here. Yes, because we have a section on the team about stress management. I would say one thing that is really important in terms of stress management is staying in communications with me, because if you're having, like, you know, if you are really struggling or whatever, like, because this can be an emotional burden, right? Just make sure you keep in contact with me and like let me know if you're having, you know, problems, because then I can sort of like help you out and things like that. But we also have a whole bunch of tips from Healthy Schools, okay? And we can see more. So there are breathing techniques, how sleep reduces stress, deep breathing exercises, progressive muscle relaxation, writing and stress, photography for relieving stress, reading for stress relief, stress relieving music, baking, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's one thing you can do. Did I not put the other thing in here? Ooh, I didn't. Okay, I'm also going to put up the link to the Insight Timer app because I have recently had a very stressful situation in my life. Okay, my husband left me last December, so that was a little bit stressful. All right, so I've had to deal with a lot of stress. And I never thought I would meditate. I'm like, oh my God, meditating in me, my brain never shuts down, ever. Meditation is amazing. I will tell you that right now. And I'll put up the site for that. Okay. And in terms of managing stress, do a little bit every day. Do you know what I mean? Like keep up every day as much as you can and do learn to let things go. Okay. So if I give you an assignment and it's got 15 problems on it and you've only got time to do 5, do 5. Do you know what I mean? Like you may not need to do all 15. And this goes for all my homework is like, if I give you some homework and you don't need to do it all, then don't do it all, right? Because you need to manage your time because you are taking a lot of courses, right? Okay. All right. Be each other's support also, okay? Find people who you can work with, find people who can, cry with you after the exam and things like that. Oh my God, it was so bad. It wasn't so bad. Trust me, it'll be fine, okay? We also have some study techniques here that help you to study. Let's pick one here. Pomodoro. This is actually also good for keeping your stress down. Okay, the Pomodoro technique. Let's go here. Why does it go? I want it to not go to Bing, but it's on Bing. I'm just going to grab this and put it on Chrome because on Chrome, it knows who I am and I don't have ads. Okay. And he probably got paid for this, but anyway. Okay. So that is one study technique that works really well for a lot of people. And it prevents you from, going crazy too. And you get up and you move your body, and yeah, it's good. Okay. So things like that can help you manage stress because you're staying on top of things. All right. What else have we got? We've got upcoming quizzes and tests. And guess what? Next week on Thursday, we have a quiz on 5.1 and 5.2. So how about we go and grab, because you've been sitting here a long time listening to me yak. It's too long. What you're going to do is you're going to go to that back table there. Okay. And you're going to grab one of everything. Do not make a mess. Okay. Keep everything in nice piles. Yeah. What happened to our air conditioning? What? It's really muggy in here. Like the office. All it was
Tried to change it from the house. She was like, I can teach English for Spanish. And she was like, but I saw biology come through business. So she gave up.
Yeah.
They're both biased.
I don't think so.
Right.
No, I don't feel tired at all. It's like, you can make that help.
So if you're wondering how this long sheet can go into a binder, it's hole punched at the top. So if you fold it, so you have about 1.5 inches like that, then it can go into your binder nicely like that. So you leave about 1 inch or 1.5 inches where you have the hole punches, and then it fits nicely into a binder. Okay, and I was trying to guess where there were still people, and I guess.
Oh, it is? Is it supposed to be in like a specific order?
No.
Oh,
So unit 1 goes with the unit 1 answer key,
right.
and unit 5 answer key goes with the unit 5 workbook. And that's
This
it.
go in like this one.
So yeah, sure.
Okay. And then this is just separate.
And this is just this is like reference, and this is reference. The reason this is not attached to this is because it had to be copied on a different copy.
Or
Because
like
it's
that
color.
color.
Right? I know, I love that. Yes.
I'm scared. I'm so scared.
Oh, how do you get ahead to make the words lighter later?
That's a very good question.
I probably
So I was like, she like just kissed ass and was like, yes, ma'am. She like sit in the front row.
Right?
So if you want be engaged, then you'll be fine. Also.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, thanks. All right. And he's better than Miranda whenever. Oh, you're joking. You got to be joking.
Okay, so we are actually going to start with some content. All right, so take another minute or two and just get those things all organized for yourself. And we want to go to Chem 11, enriched. Why is it down at the bottom? Yeah.
Scissors.
I do have scissors. Just give me 1 second. There we go. There you go. Yeah, no problem. All right.
I'm actually surprised.
Okay. And actually, I might as well tell you what your homework is before we go on, because that way you'll know what it is and you don't have, and I don't have to like be babbling it at the end of class. So your homework for today, and we're not starting on it right now, but it is in Unit 1. Why does this pen never work? It drives me crazy. Okay, why don't I even try? Unit 1. Page, is it 26, 27? Let me take a look. Pages 26 to 27, those are optional, okay? And I'll explain why those are optional very, very shortly, okay? Page 26, 27, that is optional. And Unit 5, which is the pink workbook, that's going to be 5.1A and 5.1B. And Tyler, our good friend Tyler DeWitt, is going to introduce you to the concept of the mole. Okay? So if you love Tyler DeWitt, this will be great for you. If you don't love Tyler DeWitt, then you can put him on 1.75 times, and it's really good. Okay? So if you're like, what on earth is going on with 5.1A? Well, first of all, we have our table of contents, and you can be like, what page is 5.1A on? It is on page 4. Okay? We're not doing that right now, so you don't actually even have to be there. But what you'll do, this is for homework, okay, is you're going to go and visit this video. Okay? This will take you to the video, or this link will also take you to the video, and you're going to fill in as you go. Okay? And that one's quite short. And then 5.1B, again, there's a video with a link. All right? And you're going to go and you're going to fill it in, blah-de-blah-de-blah, la la la, and then there you go. Okay? And if you want to work ahead, you could do some 5.1C, but you don't have to. Okay? But 5.1A, 5.1B, that's your homework. And if you want to do 26 and 27 on the Unit 1, you can. And right now, what we are going to do is we are going to go to Unit 1. And we are going to go to page, what page are we going to go to? 1.2A, which is on page 23. Page 23. And that's not in the pink workbook. This is in the one that's the big one that's just stapled together. Okay, Unit 1. I'm sorry it doesn't have its own cover. I didn't finish it in time to get it printed by the print shop. If you're wondering where these booklets come from, I make them. So there we are. So you can recognize an acid because its formula contains what? Hydrogen, okay? And specifically, what it's going to contain is it's either going to begin with an H, and that's going to be an H plus, okay? In this case, hydrogen behaves as an ion, okay? Or it ends in COOH, and this H right here is the one that is the H plus, okay? So if you're looking at the formula, you're either going to see an H at the beginning or a couple of H's at the beginning, or you're going to see a COO with an H at the end, okay? And if you're ever like, I would just like to know the name of an acid, you have a list of virtually every acid you could ever need to know right here. All right, but we're going to refresh on how to name acids and go over a few things in case you've forgotten them, okay? So moving on to page 24. There's videos if you want, you can watch them. You may already have done so over the summer. Do you remember, or did you learn, the 3 mnemonic? Do you guys know the word mnemonic? Mnem, which has a silent M at the beginning, is from the Greek for memory. So if you have a mnemonic device, that is a memory aid. Okay, so if I ever use the word mnemonic device, that's like the official term for a memory aid. Okay? And I don't know if you learned them over the summer, but there were 3 mnemonic devices that helped to figure out how to name an acid. And you may or may not have done them over the summer. Have a chat with your neighbor, see if you remember any of them. And Baran, I know you don't have a neighbor. Perhaps you could turn around and talk to Emma. And Jade, maybe you could talk to Felix. And I don't know, do you want to move closer so you have someone to talk to? You'll have someone next day, right? Yeah, okay, cool. You guys are quiet. Of course, there's only like 15 of you, so you shouldn't. Okay, does anyone remember any of them? My ride has hydraulics. Now, that's not how you spell hydraulics, but it's as good a mnemonic as we can get for this one. Okay, I don't know if you guys are familiar. Have you ever seen those cars that go along and they like go up and down? Have you ever seen them? Like they drive and they go, and they go. And apparently, I did not know this, but if you're ever in Victoria and you're there on a Saturday night, all along the Inner Harbor, all these cars go on this little parade along every Saturday night. And they're going up and down, and they've got actual like real flames going along the side of the car and like lights, and it's quite exciting actually. Saw it this summer. I was like, whoa. Anyway, hydraulics are what make the car go up and down. Okay, so that's why we have my ride has hydraulics. And that means that if you have an ion that ends in "ide," when you turn it into its acid name, when you attach an H to it, you're going to put hydro on the front and ic at the end. Okay, and we'll do a few of the examples of those in just a moment, but we're going to get the other two first. Anyone remember another one? Yes. I ate something icky. So if you have an anion, what's an anion? A negative ion, okay? A negative ion. What do we call positive ions? Cations. And if you have trouble remembering that, remember cats have paws. So cations are positive. Okay, really cheesy. Sorry. So if your anion ends in ate, chlorate, carbonate, sulfate, then you just put ic on the end, and then it's the acid name. And then finally, our last one. Yes. My Sprite is delicious. So ite is delicious. So if you have an ion whose name ends in ite, then you know it ends in O-U-S. Now, how are you going to know the names of these ions? Well, you have a data booklet, yes, and it is pink. All right, your data booklet looks like this. It's got the periodic table on the front. All right, and we're going to go to those pages. And the first page is a periodic table, and what do you notice is missing from it? Charges and names, okay? Now, the reason I've given you this is because if you decide to write the AP exam, your periodic table will look a lot like this. It will not have names, it will not have charges. That's 2 years from now though, right? So, in the meantime, if we turn to page 2, you'll see that we have names. Oh, how nice. And we're going to, if you want to, write the charges down, but I'm going to encourage you to memorize the charges, and they're pretty easy. In fact, it's as easy as 1, 2, 3, and we'll go through that in just a moment. But the reason we're here right now is that if we go to page 3 of your data booklet, we find a table of polyatomic ions. Okay, so you can see here we have acetate, carbonate, chlorate, chlorite, chromate, cyanate, all of those things. And you will have this on any test that you write. Okay? Now, for the AP exam, will you have a table of common ions? No. Will they mostly use really common ions? Yes. Will they give you names of things that are uncommon? Yes, they'll probably give you the formula and the name if it's uncommon. I'm thinking that by the time you get to grade 12, you will probably just learn them because you'll just be exposed to them so much. But if you do have trouble with it, I have like a little thing that's like a tips for memorizing your ions that you can take a look at should you so desire. I'm not going to require you to do that, but I will give it to you as a tool, okay? Not today, though, because you already have like 7,000 papers. Okay, we'll save that for another day. So you'll notice that all of these polyatomic ions end in either 8 or they end in ite. And there's only a couple that end in ide. There's cyanide and there's hydroxide. Okay? And what do you notice about all of the anions that end in ate or ite? What do they all have in common? Take a look at it, discuss with your partner, what do all the 8 and 8 ions have in common with each other? Look at their formulas. What does this have in common with this, have in common with this, have in common with this? What do they all have? Yes, they all have oxygen. Okay, so all the 8 and 8 ions contain oxygen. We call them oxyanions. All right, so anytime you see one of those polyatomic ions, you know you have an 8 or an 8. So let's go back then to here. And oh, look, hey, we have these right here. My ride has hydraulics. I ate something icky. This is back on page 24. And my Sprite is delicious. All right, so if you have an ide ion, most of the ide ions are single elements: bromide, chloride, fluoride, iodide. Yes, just one single element. However, we do also have cyanide, CN, which does not have any oxygen, so it does not have that 8 or 8 ending. And so the stem of this word is brom. So this is hydrobromic acid. So we put the hydro on the front and the ic at the end. Yes?
So, if HCl has been made out of oxygen, what is hydroxide?
Hydroxide is its own funny little thing, because actually, if you think, what is the acid made when we put hydrogen with hydroxide? What happens if we put a hydrogen ion with the hydroxide ion? What do we get? We get water. And so water is like such a common thing, and it behaves so differently from everything else. And I'm not sure why hydroxide has oxygen and it's not named with the 8 or the I, it just is. Sometimes with chemistry, things just are because they've been that way a long time. And I feel like water is one of those things that's so common, and we've been dealing with it for so long, that probably the hydroxide ion maybe got its name before we had standardized names. Okay? Yeah, that's my best guess, but I'm not guaranteeing that's correct. Okay? But it is the only one that has oxygen that doesn't have that name, but it also doesn't really form an acid, it forms water. So yeah, good question though. I like that. Where's my little erasy thing? There we go. Okay. So those are our acids, and all you do is you take them. Now, there are 2 elements which are slightly weird. One is sulfur, and one is phosphorus. And they don't behave when they go with their name exactly the same as everything else. Because if they did, this would be hydrosulfic acid, and there is no such thing as hydrosulfic acid. If you have an S or a P, these guys need an extra syllable. And in the case of sulfur, that extra syllable is the And in phosphorus, it's the or. So instead of just being hydrosulfic acid, it's hydrosulfuric acid. Instead of being hydrophosphic acid, it's hydrophosphoric acid. So you have that extra syllable. Now again, you're going to be spending a lot of time with all of these ions and all of these acids in between now and the end of your grade 12 course. So they will become more second nature. Okay, and you'll just get used to them, and you'll be like, who on earth would ever say hydrosulfic acid? That's just weird, right? You'll be like, it's obviously hydrosulfuric acid. All right, I ate something icky. So you'll notice we have all of our oxy anions, okay, with the oxygens on them, and they end in 8. And we take the stem of that, and all we have this time is icky. So there's no hydro, there's just ick. So carbonate becomes carbonic acid. Chlorate becomes chloric acid. Nitrate becomes nitric acid. So you just add the ick to the end. And once again, our friends, what are the 2 elements that don't behave quite right? Sulfur and phosphorus. Okay, instead of sulfate becoming sulfic acid, what does it become? Sulfuric acid. And phosphate doesn't become phosphic acid, it becomes phosphoric acid. Okay, so again, we have the extra syllable. Okay. Now, organic acids. Organic acids are the ones that end in COOH. And the one thing that's a little bit weird of them is that we write the anion first. Okay? You never write the anion first, except if you're dealing with an organic acid. All right? Because this is made of an H+ ion and a CH3COO- ion. All right? And this hydrogen right here, that is what we call the acidic hydrogen. Because it's the one that will get out into the water and make things taste sour. Did you guys know that acids taste sour? Okay, good. It's the one that will come off in water and will eat through metal, because that's another thing that acids do, is they corrode metal. All right? These hydrogens on the CH3, these are non-acidic hydrogens. Okay, they don't make it taste sour. They don't eat through metal. They don't, what are some other things about acids? They turn litmus paper. Anyone remember? What color acids turn litmus paper? Red. Okay? We'll do a little acid lab so you can see all these things, okay? So those are our non-acidic hydrogens there. So we have acetate becomes acetic acid. Formate becomes formic acid, and it's based on the formate ion here. Am I going to make you memorize all these ions? No. Okay, you should just know the pattern. Now, why do we write them this way around? It actually has to do with the real structure of the molecule. Okay, so if we have an organic compound, let's say we have a carbon. Do you guys remember how many valence electrons carbon has? That's a big ask, isn't it? Carbon is in group 14. 4. So it has 4 valence electrons. So how many bonds should carbon be forming? 4. Because what does it want? It wants a total of how many electrons? It wants 8, because 8 is a full octet, and that is very, starts with an S, stable, okay? Don't say happy, okay? Even though we can think, oh, it's happy, we don't want to write that because we sound like, you know, we're in grade 9 still, right? But they are stable, okay? So if we put our hydrogen here, and our hydrogen here, and our hydrogen here, there we go. And then this is bonded to a second carbon. And don't worry, we will be doing a little bit on these Lewis structures. Did you do Lewis structures in grade 10? Yeah, a little bit. Okay. So we will be doing a little bit more on these so that it's not, so foreign. And then if we have this, that's our CH3. You see how that's our CH3? And then we have the C. Let's get rid of that circle there because it's just irritating. It's got a double bond to an O. Now, I don't know. Have you guys done double bonds at this point? Some of you have, okay. If you haven't, don't worry. Like I said, we're going to go through this. There's a double bond to the O, and there's a single bond to the other O, and then it's attached to an H. Okay, so we have COOH, and every time you have a COOH group on an organic compound, what's an organic compound? It's based on carbon. And anytime you have a COOH, that tells you it is a carboxylic acid. Okay, and that's why we write it as CH3COOH, is because the structure actually looks like COOH. Okay. And we could have, oh, look, we have CH3, CH2, COOH, and that is called propanoic, propanoate, and the acid is propanoic acid. Now, do you remember, we got a couple prefixes here. We have eth and prop. Do you remember what eth means? Eth means 2 carbons. And guess what? How many carbons are in ethanoic acid? You have 2 carbons. Can you think of another compound that begins with the prefix eth? Ethane. Okay, ethane would just be CH3 with another CH3 attached to it. Another one that starts with eth. Ethanol. Okay, so that would be an alcohol with 2 carbons. Do you remember what we call it when we have a group that behaves in a certain way that can be seen in all sorts of different organic structures? It's a functional group, because this one, its function is really obvious. It functions as an acid. Yes? So this is a functional group. Okay, so that is our carboxylic acid functional group. And if you're going to take biology, you'll learn about those, because when you have an amino acid, the kind of acid you have is this carboxylic acid group. Okay? And prop, how many carbons is prop? 3. 3 carbons. And one of my students a couple years back came up with a little mnemonic device to remember the first 4 prefixes, which was me, eat, peanut, butter. Which stands for, what does the M stand for? Meth. Mono is for the, what you call them? Normal covalent compounds. Okay, we have mono, di, tri, tetra. But in organic compounds, instead of mono, di, tri, tetra, we have meth and then eth. What comes next? Prop. And finally, bute. Okay, so we have butane or butanol. Now, I haven't bothered coming up with something else to remember the other ones, because if you have mono, di, tri, tetra, what comes after that? Mono, di, tri, tetra, penta, hexa, hepta, octa, nona. Okay, and hopefully you remember those. If you don't, I'll just write them down really quick. penta, hexa, hepta, octa, nona, deca, but hopefully like those are the same as the ones that we use in regular covalent compounds. And when I say a covalent compound, what do I mean by that? What are covalent compounds? Tell your partner, what are covalent compounds? It's been a long day and it's like hot in here. I'm finding it's making it hard to think too. Yeah. Covalent compounds are made of what type of elements? Nonmetals. And what do they do with their electrons? They share. Okay, so anytime you have covalent compounds, they have mono, di, tri, tetra, penta, hexa, etc., etc. Okay. All right. Now, finally, we have our ite ions, which become us acids. And what's the mnemonic for this one? For ite ions? Sprite is delicious. Now, I have gone out of my way to find a font where an I and a capital L do not look anything like each other. Okay? So when you see my resources, other than this one, because this is the one you're going to get close to the one you're going to get in grade 12, so I want you to get used to it. You'll notice that this right here is an L. Okay? And when I write it, I will usually write like a scripty kind of L, like a handwriting kind of L, because it makes it distinct from the capital I. It drove me nuts over the summer on Teams because the fonts, it was like, here's an I and here's an L. Like, huh, no. Okay, so I use a font called Ebrima, and it gives you an I with a bar on the top and a bar on the bottom, and it gives you an L that's actually a little bit taller, you can see, than the capital letter, right? So that is an L. And an I, if I had HIO3, it would actually look like that, okay? Now, one way that you can tell that it's an L if you don't have as nice of a font, like let's say we were on our data pages and we're looking here and I'm like, is that an L or is it an I? Well, what's the name? Chlorate. What do you think it is? It's an L because it's based on chlorine. Okay, so it's not a capital C, capital I, right? So you can get clues from that sort of thing as well. And we are almost out of time here. So it's a good thing that I gave you your homework earlier, isn't it? Okay, so 26, 27 in this workbook that we were just working on, optional if you feel like it will help you. And then 5.1a, 5.1b. And if you want to work ahead, you can work on 5.1c. Okay?
Homework's posted on Teams, right?
Homework is posted on Teams, and I'm going to go do that right now.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm so rusty. Wait, I think we're gonna have to. Huh? I think we're gonna have. Yeah, no, junior.